Sinner versus Alcaraz. 10 facts that prove tennis has a new big two. In 2024 and 2025, Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz won every men's Grand Slam between them. In 2025, every single time they played each other, it was in a final. And after 16 matches, they had won exactly the same number of points, 1,651 each. This is not a rivalry waiting to begin. Tennis already has a new big two. Here are 10 facts that prove it. Number 10, they met before the world knew their names. The first chapter actually came long before the Grand Slam trophies. In 2019, a 15-year-old Carlos Alcaraz defeated Jannik Sinner at a challenger event in Alicante. Their first official ATP Tour meeting came 2 years later at the Paris Masters. Alcaraz won in straight sets and then made a prediction that now sounds almost unbelievable. He said that he and Jannik would have a great rivalry in the future. He was right. Number 9. Their first Grand Slam meeting came at Wimbledon. In 2022, Sinner and Alcaraz stepped onto center court for the first time. It was also their first meeting at a Grand Slam. Sinner dominated the opening 2 sets, survived an Alcaraz comeback, and eventually won in 4. At the time, it was simply an exciting 4th-round match between 2 young talents. Looking back, it was the first Grand Slam chapter of a rivalry that would soon control the sport. Number 8, their US Open epic changed everything. Only 2 months later, they met again in New York. This time, the match lasted 5 hours and 15 minutes. Sinner held match point. Alcaraz survived. The match ended at 2:50 in the morning, after both players had produced some of the most physical and explosive tennis the US Open had ever seen. Alcaraz went on to win the tournament and became the youngest world number 1 in ATP history. One match had turned a promising rivalry into the future of tennis. Number 7, they won every Grand Slam in 2024. Sinner started the season by winning the Australian Open. Alcaraz answered by winning Roland Garros and Wimbledon. Then Sinner finished the major season by lifting the US Open trophy. 4 Grand Slams, 4 titles, all won by just 2 players. It was also the first time since 1993 that every men's major in a season had been won by players aged 23 or younger. The change of generation was no longer coming. It had arrived. Number 6, one owned the rivalry, while the other owned the season. The strangest part of 2024 was that Alcaraz defeated Sinner every time they played. He beat him at Indian Wells, he beat him at Roland Garros, and he beat him again in an incredible Beijing final. Alcaraz finished the year with a perfect 3-0 record against his biggest rival. But Sinner finished the season as world number 1 and won 2 Grand Slam titles. One player controlled the head-to-head. The other controlled the tour. Number 5, every meeting in 2025 was a final. Sinner and Alcaraz played 6 times in 2025. Rome, Roland Garros, Wimbledon, Cincinnati, the US Open, and the ATP Finals. Every one of those matches was a championship match. They also split the 4 Grand Slam titles for the 2nd consecutive season. That meant Sinner and Alcaraz had combined to win 8 straight men's majors across 2024 and 2025. The biggest trophies in tennis were no longer being shared by the entire field. They were being passed between 2 players. Number 4, Roland Garros produced an instant classic. The 2025 Roland Garros final was their first meeting in a Grand Slam final. It was also the first men's major final between 2 players born in the 2000s. Sinner won the opening 2 sets and reached 3 consecutive championship points in the 4th. Alcaraz saved all 3. 5 hours and 29 minutes after the match began, Alcaraz completed one of the greatest comebacks in tennis history. It became the longest men's Roland Garros final of the Open era. Sinner had been 1 point away from the title. Instead, he left Paris with one of the most painful defeats of his career. Number 3, Sinner answered 5 weeks later. Most players would need months to recover from a loss like that. Sinner needed 5 weeks. At Wimbledon, the same two players met in another Grand Slam final. This time, Sinner refused to let the opportunity escape. He defeated Alcaraz in 4 sets, ended a 5-match losing streak against him, and became the first Italian singles champion in Wimbledon history. Paris had belonged to Alcaraz. London belonged to Sinner. The rivalry had found its perfect balance. Number 2, after 16 matches, they had won exactly the same number of points. Before the 2026 Monte Carlo final, Alcaraz led their official head-to-head by 10 wins to 6. That sounds like a significant advantage. But across those 16 matches, Sinner had won 1,651 points. Alcaraz had also won 1,651 points. Exactly equal. The match record said Alcaraz was ahead. The points said they could not be separated. Number 1, they have locked everyone else out of world number 1. Since June 2024, only 2 men have held the number 1 ranking: Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz. Before the 2026 Monte Carlo final, they had each spent exactly 66 weeks at the top of the rankings. The title and the world number 1 position were both on the line. Sinner won the final, returned to number 1, and moved 1 week ahead of Alcaraz. Once again, the biggest match, the biggest title, and the top ranking came down to the same 2 players. They are not the new Federer and Nadal. They are not replacements for Djokovic. They are building a rivalry of their own. And based on everything we have already seen, this may only be the beginning. So who will dominate the next decade of tennis? Jannik Sinner or Carlos Alcaraz? Tell us in the comments.